Hello, this is Mr. Hupp, and I want to walk you through using Google Sheets to calculate your average and your standard deviation. So if you just follow along with me, that should be just fine. So to get to a Google Sheet, you start from Google Drive, open the folder that you want to put the sheet in, and then click New and Sheet on the top left. That's Create a Document, and choose a sheet. One of the things I would like you to do when you make these is the first thing is put your last name and then a dash or an underscore and then describe what the document is. So this might be your last name and a dash and then calculating standard deviation. The next thing we're going to do, we will be using an example data set. So I've posted that on the calendar. So if you open the event and select all of the data and copy that, then you should have everything you need. Okay, so we'll go back to the sheet, and here we go. So what we're going to do is right click and paste right here, or we can use Control or Command V in your case if you're using your Apple computer. Okay, so now I have a list of numbers. So we have a meters as a heading and then a list of numbers. All right, so we have 30 different values. I'm going to go over to column C, and I'm going to type these words. These are descriptions for me to look at. So we're going to calculate the average. And we're going to do standard deviation 3 different ways. So STDEV, skip a line, STDEVA, skip another line, STDEVP, and then we're going to calculate our CV percent at the end. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a formula. To start a formula, we put an equal sign and then we choose our function. There is a list of functions available right here. The difference between Google Sheets and Excel, Google has a few hundred functions, Excel has a few thousand functions. So Excel is much more powerful, but Google will get the job done. So we're going to type in the word average. And you see that it pops up and gives you some information. So we put an average, open a parenthesis, and since I have a title over here in my first column, I'm going to go in and select my numbers, all 30 numbers, and then so I'm looking at the absolute reference right here, A2 colon A31. So those are the same numbers every time. I could just type in A2 colon A31, it would do the same thing. So basically it says I'm going to find the average of that range, and then it spits out 52.8666666667. Okay, so that's our average. Then we're going to calculate standard deviations on that same data set. So we're going to type equal STDEV, open a parenthesis, and we're going to use the same ones, A2 and colon A31 is the end of it, and hit return, and we get 17.266. So make sure, I'm going to go check that cell reference again. Yes, A31 is my last one. Column A, row 31, last one. Okay, so let's do another standard deviation. Equals STDEVA, and it tells you a little bit of about the description. It says this is a sample variation. Notice this right here. It says if there's text in it, it's going to count it as 0. So that's why I'm using the A2 through A31. So it doesn't use the word meters in this calculation. So A2 colon A31. Or you can just select the numbers you want to calculate the standard deviation for. And then finally, our last standard deviation equals STDEVP. And we're going to use the same cell references, A2 to A31. And hit return. There is our standard deviation P. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do is use our numbers here to calculate CV percent. So the ones I'm interested in for this calculation are standard deviation for the population. And I like to color things. Sometimes you can hit this little bucket and that fills in the cells. You can hit the little A and change the colors. So I'm going to highlight the two that I'm using for this calculation using these. And you can also do bold and italics and strike through You can also go through and add borders and that sort of thing. So a lot of the stuff you can do in Excel, you can do right here. You can also change the fonts, adjust the number of decimal places, convert it to dollars or percentage. I usually don't use those in engineering or science. And that sort of thing. So we'll talk more about using Excel functions. A lot of what we learn in Excel goes right into Google Sheets. Okay, back to this. I'm going to use my standard deviation and my mean. Average is a mean calculation. I'm going to do that right here. So, and I also want to multiply that times 100% to turn it into a percentage. So I'm going to type the word equal, open a parenthesis, and arrow up a couple of times and choose my standard deviation for my population, cell D7, and then I'm going to use the / as divide, and I'm going to go up to D1, and that is my mean. So I have my standard deviation divided by my mean. Then I'm going to use the asterisk, which means multiply, and put 100. So what this is saying is I'm going to calculate, take the standard deviation for the population divided by the average or the mean, and multiply that value times 100% or 100 to turn it into a percent. And then since this is the number I'm really after, I'm going to bold that, and then I'm going to fill that yellow, or we'll make it green. Okay, so here's my final answer for this calculation. What I would like you to do today, just for reference, I'm going to go highlight all of my numbers here, and we're going to fill this in like this. Let's put a blue. Okay, so now I've got my numbers, I've got my average, standard deviation calculated 3 different ways, and our coefficient of variation as a percentage. When you turn this in on your report, you're going to select from cell A1 all the way down and all the way through column D. So you're going to highlight all of this data, and you're going to copy that, and then you will put that into your report document. It will ask if you want to link the data or unlinked, or just paste as unlinked data. Use unlinked. We just want the numbers reported. So this is how you're going to do your calculations for the Catapult lab. Thanks very much.